Hi, and welcome to Love and the Planets for the week of October 16th, 2017. I'm Armand Diaz in New York.
And I'm Margaret Gray in Dublin, Ireland.
Margaret, week of the new moon, quiet, introspective time where we go within, and it's going to be very relaxed and easygoing, I'm sure.
No way, unfortunately. Yes, we would think so with the new moon, particularly new moon in Libra, which of course is in essence about balance and fairness and considering the other person. So really, technically, it's a lovely new moon for relationships. It's a lot about consideration, but we've got the biggie. It is opposite Uranus in Aries. So need we say more? I mean, goodness, so that kind of really gives that just essence of unpredictability. And it's a very jagged energy. So it's like there's this push and pull between, do I consider how I can, be nice to somebody else, or do I just do what I want to do, basically?
I feel that, a new moon, a time of beginnings as well as endings. I just feel this sort of sense of like getting into a relationship and then it's opposite areas and you go, oh, but wait a minute. Wait a minute. I'm not so sure about this after all. Maybe I'm a little bit more about me than us. Also, I mean, it is a time of endings as well as beginnings, and it is in the sign of relationships. So opposite Uranus, I think, those relationships that have been under stress for a while, although with Venus having had all the aspects she's had so far in late September and October, I think we've already had plenty of potential breaking points. But this is another one.
Looking at it though from a little bit of a more positive angle, I think there is the potential though to start something new. So there could be, it's almost like opening a window, letting some fresh air in with the Uranus. And so I think if couples are having difficulties, or friends, or even difficulties at work, this is a kind of potential window to sit down and say, how can we do it differently? But if people are not prepared to do it differently, then it's not likely to work. Also, there is the quincunx to Chiron, which can, of course, either be that it's like bringing up old hurts so it can feel very uncomfortable, or it can be a potential, something can heal in it all. So I think there is that potential. It can go either way.
I think so. I think it is. I mean, I think it would do both. I think, the quincunx to Chiron would bring up the difficulties from which they may be healed. There's that Uranian impatience, or let's just at least say unpredictability that goes with the planet. And so, you have to be able to sit down and work through things. And that's a challenge sometimes.
Also, the interesting thing is, of course, that, just before it, we have the Jupiter conjunction with Mercury in Scorpio, because Mercury will just gone into Scorpio. So we've got, this whole issue of communication comes up again. And communication has been a big theme over the past few weeks. And now with Mercury in Scorpio, it's really, communication has to be honest. We cannot, just skirt around issues or try and stay on the surface. We've got to really go into the depths. And with Jupiter joining that Mercury, it just really emphasizes that so much more. So I think this kind of, in a way, there's a connection with the Uranian energy, because it's really about honesty. We cannot just pretend anymore.
Yeah, I think Jupiter gives you that bit of faith, that bit of hope. And I hope people will check out our Jupiter and Scorpio blog on the website and check out the Jupiter and Scorpio video on YouTube. But I think that, in Scorpio, this meeting of Jupiter and Mercury, it gives us the faith and the courage to say what's down at the core. So that we don't, with all that Libran energy, with Jupiter in Libra and with Mercury in Libra and everybody in Libra for a while there, the little bit of like, let's put a nice veneer on it. Let me take your perspective. Let me see how I can deliver this message to you in a nice sort of sugar-coated way, or a little bit of a nice gracious veneer on it. In Scorpio, it's like, no, this is what it is, deal with it. But there's also the faith that, if I tell the truth, if I'm honest, that could help. That could make things work better.
And really, it's very important, isn't it, particularly in intimate relationships, that if we're not honest about who we are and, you know, how we're really feeling, and we find ways to communicate that, of course, always in a respectful, kind way, but that we're honest about it, really there can't be intimacy. So in a way, this kind of, I feel like this week, it strips away any pretense. So it really kind of boils down to, you know, what's real, you know, which really is what creates real intimacy. So by the end of the week and by next week, I think there's much more that sense of kind of personal integrity and also integrity potentially in a relationship.
At the end of the week, we have the Scorpio moon, which will then, it'll be the first time the moon conjunct Scorpio, Jupiter in Scorpio. And it'll be the first, it'll emphasize, it'll bring us into, in an emotional sense, it'll bring us into that Scorpio area. So really, I mean, the whole back part of the week is really described by this very intense kind of scorpionic energy. Go deep, keep it real. There's no sugarcoating.
So probably, you know, this is really going to impact, not probably, it is going to impact people certainly who are Aries or Libra. So really, this is going to particularly impact anybody who's got planets in Aries, also in Libra, and of course, anybody who has planets in Scorpio. And in fact, you know, for anybody who has planets in Scorpio, this is likely to be, and Aries, it's likely to be quite a comfortable week in some ways because there is this directness and honesty.
As for going out and having a good time, I don't know. I don't know. It's a new moon, and that is a sort of more internal energy. The scorpionic emphasis makes it very difficult to see what's a great time to get out. I suppose as we move away from the new moon, and maybe Sunday, see how much fun you can have on a Sunday.
So maybe go for a walk, or maybe, you know, with all these scorpionic energies, you know, if you live near volcanoes, for my friends in Hawaii, certainly a great time to go and visit the volcano. If you don't, or if anybody's in Iceland, but for any of us who don't, maybe just to go out and spend some time in nature, you know, go for a walk, watch a movie, you know, watch a movie together, or read a book, or have some quiet time.
I agree. Yeah, a little quiet time, not a bad idea.
On that note, we will leave everybody, and don't forget about our video on Jupiter in Scorpio through the different signs for relationships. And see you next week, Armand.
See you, Margaret.
Bye-bye.